If your child turns into a different person after screen time, it's not in your head. This is actually happening. There's a reason they become more explosive, they have less focus, and become more aggressive, especially after getting off of a screen. I'm here to tell you today what is really happening to your child's brain so that you can fix it and without going screen free. I'm Ken, board certified behavior analyst and licensed psychologist, and I'm here to talk to you today about exactly what's going on with your child's brain, especially as it relates to screens. Now, this is a big deal at the moment. Why is that? Because the EU, the European Union, as well as Australia, have proposed measures to ban social media and digital technologies from those under the age of 16. A lot of people might be saying, well, that seems pretty harsh. Children use it to communicate, to socialize, and they use it in different ways than we did. And although that may be true, there's a much more sinister layer going on under that we don't really talk about too much. So we're here to get into that today. So I'm not going to take too long with a long intro, but I want to get right into what you came for, which is what is screen time actually doing to the brain? So, number one thing that screen time is doing to your brain, we must talk about the prefrontal cortex. This is the control center for your entire brain, okay? It tells everything else what to do. It tells your brain when to reason, when to calm down, when to get excited, when to get ready to go to sleep, when to get hungry. It controls all of those emotions, your temperature, your emotional regulation. It helps you to plan, see things in the future. It helps you to stay calm. There's so many things that the executive functioning part of your brain does that is almost amazing. It's almost impossible to function without it. Here's the catch though. Children, that part of the front of the brain is developing much, much later. So it is not developed fully, and they don't know how to regulate their emotions. They don't know how to determine when they're hungry, when they need to use the restroom. Although they make it those physical sensations, that can be overridden by things such as screen time, drugs, or highly reinforcing activities. So when those games, those flashing lights, when a new video pops up, when you see a friend when you see something, a heart floating across your screen, it produces floods of dopamine. Okay, these are neurotransmitters that go into the brain that make you feel good. It's also opiates and other neurochemicals are produced during this time. Those pleasure centers of the brain just start lighting up and firing all over the place. But here's what happens. It gets so overwhelmed that those parts of the brain structurally start to change. So your brain physically does change. Those connections get stronger, they get thicker. But what happens when they don't have all that dopamine flowing through it? Yes, they got stronger so the dopamine could flow through nicely, but when all the dopamine is gone, they say, hey, I need the dopamine that helped me to get this strong in the first place. So it tells the body to do that, and then that's when your child starts to have the physical reactions. They get a little bit more irritable, okay? They get a little bit more tense. They can even become explosive or aggressive, especially when the screen time is over. So once again, the child's brain is extremely malleable, which means it changes up until the age of about 25. So if you have all this dopamine rushing to certain parts of the brain at an early age for prolonged periods of time, you're not only changing the structure of the brain, the physical aspect of the brain, you're also changing how they behave. So now let's get into the behavior. Now that you know a little bit about how the brain is functioning and what the screen time is doing to the brain, how does that change their behavior? There's a direct link between children's aggression and screen time, their ability to focus and screen time, their social behaviors in screen time. I'm sure you have all seen a child who's on their pad or whatever device they're on. They're having a great time. And then you come over to check how you're doing and you say, wait a minute, where does all this water coming from? And then you check and you see that they're wet. And it's not water, it's urine. And you say, what happened? Why didn't you just use the bathroom? I was on the pad, I was on my game. So it doesn't even matter if a physical sensation, a powerful physical sensation is telling you that you need to engage in a certain behavior. That dopamine rush from those screens have produced addictive behaviors, which means I will ignore my bodily functions, my physical functions, as long as I can get that rush of dopamine. So when we use the word addiction, we try not to use it lightly. But I can tell you, after 20 years of experience working with families of children with explosive behaviors, digital dependency, and emotional dysregulation issues, the one thing that you do not want to do is allow them to be on the pads for extended periods of time, because they already have difficulties controlling and regulating their emotions and their behavior. And as a result, you see those explosive behaviors. You see their inability to recognize their physical symptoms, and you see addictive behavior. Okay, that is some of the number one signs of addictive behavior. I can't change my behavior. I can't stop what I'm doing, and I need to do it more and more often. And when it's taken from me, I have problems, and I will display those problems in order to get it back. It doesn't matter if it's screaming, yelling, throwing themselves on the floor, or any number of behaviors. Some people will threaten violence against others. Some people will threaten violence against themselves. So you'll see these types of behaviors. And it's not that the child is bad. Okay, that is far from the truth. It's that their brain is literally being hijacked by the digital devices. And I'm not here to doom and gloom you to death, but I want to give you a realistic expectation and understanding of what's going on, so you don't think they're just having entertainment. Okay, because it's very, very far from just entertainment at this point. This has been done purposely to produce profits. It's not that your child is just addicted, it's that it's been engineered. There's a reason why the EU and the Australian Parliament want to get rid of the most addictive parts of social media and digital gaming and digital use, such as auto refresh or pull to refresh. Also autoplay, when you scroll down and you see a video that automatically plays. Pull to refresh, also infinite scrolling. The more you scroll, it'll just refresh your feed, okay, and it'll just continue to scroll. All those have been determined to be the most addictive parts that keep your child locked in. And they also have what's called dark patterns. We're not going to get too deep into that. We'll have a whole nother video to discuss that. But they are purposely engineered to keep your child on longer, and also trick them into possibly purchasing and using money. This can be done by auto-selecting. So they go to a certain screen and certain things are auto-selected already. So once they hit enter, they already have to pay an extra fee. In-game rewards. So once they reach a certain level, now they have to pay to unlock more levels. And the child doesn't understand this. Also, the use of cartoons and colorful flashing lights to get them to press here so that they can then access some gigantic reward. All of this is predatory behavior designed by psychologists that work for these companies to keep the child on as long as possible. So it's not just that the child just wants to watch Bluey, or they just want to play Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, they do. That's fantastic. But it's also being designed now to keep them on for longer and longer periods of time. But that's not it. There is something that you can do. And we always come here to give you some hope and some practical tools for use in the future. The first thing that you want to do without going screen free. Now, I will say this. The best thing to do is to go screen free. After about 2 to 3 weeks of no digital devices, the child's brain can return to normal. There has been studies that has shown this. The physical brain, as well as their behavior, can return to levels that were at baseline pre-accessing all the digital devices. So that would be my recommendation, is just to go cold turkey and cut it off. But I know that's not realistic, especially with the use in schools and in other areas of their life. So set boundaries and rules. One thing you can do is go to the American Academy of Pediatrics and try to find out what your age group of your child needs to be accessing. So 0 to 2 years old, I would say they should have none, no access. Maybe a little bit of FaceTime just so they can talk to other people, but outside of that, shouldn't have access to it. From about 2 to 5, no more than an hour a day, and Nothing outside of highly educational materials, okay? Learning their phonics, learning their ABCs, learning how to count, learning their numbers. So it needs to be producing something educational. And then from 6 on, you have to set specific boundaries. So you want to set screen-free zones in your home. None at the dinner table. None in your bedrooms. No screens in the bedroom, no screen at the dinner table. And maybe any common areas where people usually gather to talk and socialize. Keep it out of those areas and designate certain areas for screen time use. Maybe the den, or maybe you have a gaming room where people can use it. Also, cut it off an hour before bed, okay? We all know that the blue light affects the parts of the brain that does not allow the child, or anybody for that matter, to go to sleep. And that's another thing. Although I am pinpointing children, these are designed to keep grown adults on the platforms as long as possible as well. And a lot of us are susceptible to the same exact thing. So this can carry right over into adults as well as children. But let's keep going with things that you can do to help. You can also, instead of just cutting off the device use right in the middle of it or right at the end of their timer, you want to set them up for a transition or a warning so they know it's coming. If you ever have heard of our Behavior Bootcamp for Parents, we talk about making transitions, and one thing we use is the 5 more minutes or the timer. Letting them know 5 more minutes is coming up, or have a timer that they can see visually goes down, allows them to start preparing. It also allows the brain to start preparing and decreasing the necessary dopamine needed to get them to a certain level so that they can transition smoothly. So set up some warnings, set up some transition signals, and if you need help for that, like I said, check out our Behavior Bootcamp for Parents. And as a matter of fact, I want to stop real quick. Anybody who's new to the channel, I want you to stop really quick. Make sure that you subscribe, hit that like button, and also hit that bell so that you get notified anytime we drop new information. So as we continue, the last thing that you want to do after you have set up screen-free zones and you have set up some boundaries, after you have given them access to certain areas in the home, and you have also given them some transition signals, the last thing is you want to make a reconnection plan. An area of life that is highly affected by all the digital use is the socialization. So I'm sure that you've tried to get your child off. You try to hug them, you try to get used to them, and you can feel that their body is tense. Even the way that they answer certain questions. Oh, wow, you just got off. You want something to eat? No. Well, would you like spaghetti or hamburgers? I don't want anything right now. What's wrong with you? I mean, what's the problem? This is not them talking. Literally, they have been taken over. Their body has been inhabited by another spirit. In this case, it's a digital spirit. And they are coming down off of a high. And we have to make this comparison. What if they're eating sugar all day and all of a sudden, mid-bite, you just took it from them? It would cause not only them to panic, it might even cause you to panic too, especially if I did it with some chocolate or a soda or something like that. It would cause you to go ape-ish. The same thing could happen even with drug addicts. You see the same type of behavior. You're using heroin all your life, using cocaine, all of a sudden in the very middle of it, you stop. That can be very, very dangerous. Any addiction expert will tell you, do not quit cold turkey. Let us go through a process. So the last thing that you need is a reconnection plan. Once they get off, what does it look like? Can they cool down in a corner? Can they come and sit with you? Can they go outside for some fresh air? But there needs to be some type of reintegration plan, because trying to go from a highly reinforcing environment back into socialization or socializing with other people and acting in a typical manner, that's very, very difficult, especially for a child whose prefrontal cortex, again, is not fully developed. So these are the 3 things that you can do without just cutting the screen time at off. Like I said, that's what I would recommend, because you want to change physically the brain back to normal. But if you can't do that because of whatever environmental controls are going on, that is something that you can do. Set those boundaries. Make sure that you have clear transitions, and make sure that you have a reconnection plan for once they get off screens. So I know that was a lot of information. I hope y'all found it very, very interesting and very, very useful. You're not here for lectures. You're not here to find out how bad you are as a parent for allowing your child screen time. I'm here to give you the information about exactly what's happening, and then some tools for you to combat it, Because guess what? There are people who are taking advantage of your children online, specifically for the points of profit. And I'm here with you to help you battle that. So if you found this information useful, like I said, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, and make sure you hit that notification bell so every time we drop more information, it comes right to you. And don't forget to check out our Behavior Bootcamp for Parents, where you can learn how to use a lot of techniques. Matter of fact, just check out our playlist. That'll help you manage those explosive behaviors. So once again, this is Ken for Jed School, and we hope to see you in the next one. Take care.